Dr. Evans, tell us a little bit about, at least in general terms, some new discoveries of New Testament manuscripts that have been made. And just for our viewers, when we talk about New Testament manuscripts, we're talking about copies of. We don't have original New Testament manuscripts. Those are called the autographs, but what we have is copies. And so scholars are constantly looking, and archaeologists are looking for new early copies. And tell us a little bit about where we're at with that. What are some new things that have happened there?
Well, the first thing I really should tell you is that we have an abundance of riches.
Mm-hmm.
We have approximately 5,800 Greek New Testaments, either whole or parts, fragments. And the manuscripts, as the word implies, handwritten prior to the Gutenberg press in the 15th century. And we have dozens that date back to a time prior to Emperor Constantine and say the Nicene Council in 325. And those tend to be the manuscripts that scholars, textual critics as they're called, are chiefly concerned with. And so we want to get as many old manuscripts as we can find, as close as we can get back to the first century as possible. We have a handful of manuscripts that date to the second century. So there are tens of thousands of manuscripts not yet examined. And when I say manuscripts, I mean of all kinds, Greek, Roman, whether or not they're Christian, whether or not they're biblical. So there's just a mountain of material yet to sift through. But we're also recovering fragments from what's called cartonnage. It's ancient paper mache. Mummy masks were made out of that, and other interesting shapes and so on that we find in tombs. Some of it's damaged, some of it's museum quality. And so a technique in recent years has been developed that allows for this paper mache, this cartonnage, for the glue to dissolve without damaging the papyrus itself. Because when cartonnage was made, whether it was for a mummy mask or part of the body or some other purpose, they never used brand new paper. It's too expensive. So it had writing on it. It's used paper. So if you can take that apart, then you can read the text. And so some mummy masks and some other pieces, damaged pieces of cartonnage, have been deconstructed. We have actually found 2, maybe 3 second century fragments of the Greek New Testament. We have found some early fragments of the Greek translation of the Old Testament called the Septuagint. And of course the jackpot that everybody wants to hear about, we may have recovered a fragment of Mark, a few verses, that's all we're talking about, that could date to the first century. And if this is confirmed, and we have to wait until it's published, then this would be for the first time a fragment of the New Testament has been found that reaches back to the first century, to be the oldest fragment. So these are the kinds of things that are going on, and it's very exciting. What does it do? If we find even just 6 verses it's a sample. It's like taking a poll that we do in politics all the time. You can't poll everybody. You poll 1%, and that gives you a good idea of what everybody's thinking. Well, it's the same thing with a manuscript. If you get 6 or 7 verses of the Gospel of Mark or some other writing, and it turns out the text matches the text that we have, that would suggest the whole document probably does too. And so it would be a significant sample. So I look forward to the publication of this Mark fragment in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, because one of the things going on is with Mark, and you kind of break these things up, as I understand it, I'm not a textual critic, in different books and what we have as far as manuscripts. And one of the things that somebody like Bart Ehrman says is this big gap between when the original was written and then the manuscripts we have, and who knows what happened. And so there's he doesn't know because we don't have anything, but it can go into this kind of endless speculation. And so as we inch back and these discoveries are made, we inch back further to the original. I think the hope is that we find more and more,
Yes.
and that will give us greater confidence in that manuscript tradition that we have.
Well, Josh, I can tell you right now, we have a significant sample of old manuscripts from about the beginning of the 3rd century, that is 200, 210, something like that, back into the 2nd century, all the way to perhaps 130, 140 AD. And what we're finding is there are no surprises. The text is stable and consistent. And so every time we find another fragment, it's the same story. The text is consistent. And not just Christians, but non-Christians who work in the area of classics, Greek and Latin, they acknowledge that the Greek New Testament is very well preserved and very stable.
Yeah, it's in a really, when you compare it to other literature, it's just in a league of its own as far as the manuscripts. So.
Very true.
Thank you for being with us. This was great.
My pleasure.